All right. Hey, everybody. This is Jonathan Newar with Captain Experiences, and I'm here with Charlie and Kassie of Lowes, Gator, and Iguana. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing all right. Doing great. So yeah, looks a little chilly down there. Where are you guys patching in from?
We're out in Wellington right now. Wellington, Florida, South Florida, just on the bottom side of Lake Okeechobee.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, cool. I mean, would love, to kick things off. Obviously you guys offer iguana hunts in South Florida. You offer gator hunts and you offer hog hunts. And, I want to get into, each one of those experiences and what makes them unique. But would love to just kick things off and hear from each of you, how you got into guiding and making a living in the outdoors.
Well, how it started for me, I commercial fish. That was my dream. I literally have done it for about 25, 30 years. As soon as I was old enough to be able to work, I was like, I want to be a fisherman. So that just led into it. And after about 20 years of doing that, then I jumped into the guiding side of it and was fortunate to be able to jump right into gators and iguanas and all the hogs because with all my experience of fishing, I kind of knew where all the gators were hiding and where the iguanas were. So kind of just jumped into that and ran with it and been fortunate to have a great time and have everybody have a great experience when they come. And it's been great.
It's
So
awesome.
I grew up hunting and fishing with my dad, and then when Curly and I met, he was fishing, and it was just on from there. And we've kind of experienced going through the guiding and everything together, and we do it as a couple, and we love doing it. There's nothing better.
hmm That's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, curious as well, how did you guys meet?
We both fished at the same place, so I was like, "Ooh, he's really cute," and it was on from there. We were fishing together and had some kids together and just enjoying the outdoors together.
That's amazing. I mean, truly living the dream. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
Charlie, I'm curious, what sort of commercial fishing was it that had you knowing where the gators and iguanas and stuff are?
I did a lot of like tilapia, catfish, a lot of out in the swamp going out where most people wouldn't want to go. And I had to deal with the gators coming up after the nets and the traps and everything all the time. So I kind of was accustomed to knowing how to deal with an alligator where most people are like super scared of it. So, I show up to do gator hunts now and I'm wearing shorts and Crocs and people are looking at me like, are you crazy? And I'm like, well, gators fear Crocs. So let's go.
That's awesome. I love that line. Well, cool. I mean, I'm curious, over the years from y'all's perspective, how South Florida has changed, because you've got West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and it's just these, sprawling cityscapes, right? And but the hunts that you're running are kind of an ode to I don't know, years back, right? So like how do you kind of think about, how you've seen things change over the years?
I would definitely say like the population and them building like the new developments has definitely limited us to where we're able to go. So sometimes, if it's weather like today, for instance, if we were in Fort Lauderdale, like you're going to be on a bank that probably wouldn't have the best, you know, amount of iguanas out. So with our experience, we kind of know like, hey, it might be a 30-minute ride, but if we run up to West Palm, there's like a nice big canal up there that they haven't developed on and it's probably never going to get developed on, so the shrubs are still real high. I mean, you see our success rate and how big of the
Oh, yeah.
iguanas we get, and so we kind of just bounce around to where we know the rural parts of old Florida would still be. It hasn't been developed on, and kind
Yeah.
of run from there. I mean, we bounce. Obviously, we go from Fort Lauderdale to West Palm, covering everywhere, and obviously try to just show the clients the best time where we think, depending on the wind, depending on the weather, the sunshine. If we have a chance of rain, sometimes like we got spots where there's canals with bridges, we'll run up underneath the bridges and kind of just make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cassie, anything you'd add to that?
No, I mean, really, it's the same thing. So, like he's saying, depending on the weather, it might be raining in Fort Lauderdale, but it's not raining in West Palm because it's Florida. So, it's just really, we're always out looking and scouting and, just really thinking about the customer at the end of the day.
Yeah, super cool. Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of that like new versus old Florida thing, right? Like, iguanas are not a native species; they're invasive. So, can you touch just a bit on, that whole thing, the introduction of iguanas and their effect on the ecosystem?
So they came, obviously they were somebody's pet, and they got sick of it and decided to let it go. And one female iguana will have 60 to 70 eggs in her hatching. So when she does the nest, you've only had one iguana. Well, now you got 70 iguanas. And then if that thing has babies again, and then all of a sudden you're ran and overpopulated with them, to where they get up on, like, you see the roofs in the background. Those are tile roof houses where they climb up underneath the tiles of the roofs and bust all the tiles up to lay all their eggs underneath the tiles. So I mean, that's 60, $70,000 to get you a new roof put on. And the ecosystem of just them burrowing into the ground, because obviously wasn't as cold as it is now. So the last few years we've been getting cooler weather, and the iguanas have found to go and burrow into the canal banks, which all that does is once that iguana runs into that canal bank and burrows in there, now he's building a 6 foot hole, even though the hole might only be this big that he's running into. Once he's back there, he's made a big, huge hole. A little bit of rainwater with our drainage systems, our water levels come up, they go down. Well, then that whole bank erodes out.
Huh.
We've had the wall on 95 collapse. I'm a member of the Elks Lodge, the West Palm Beach Elks Lodge. And we've had our driveway collapse due to the iguanas digging, burrowing. It's a huge problem down here, and I'm glad that we're able to show people a fun time just to go out there and shoot them and have fun, and actually doing something good for the ecosystem, and you're doing something good for yourself because you're having a great time while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was on a hunt a couple years ago, and yeah, it was interesting. We were just kind of cruising along the canals, and people would come out of their backyards, and it's like, uh-oh, what's going on here? And they'd be like, "Oh, are y'all iguana hunting?" And we're like, yeah. And they're like, "Get them!" They're such a nuisance.
Right.
They're destroying our roofs. They're destroying our backyard. Our pets hate them, like that sort of thing. But then there's also the native, is it the hoot owl population? Because they'll burrow in those canals too, right? And the iguanas
Right.
eat their eggs.
Exactly.
Yeah, just really, really tough stuff. Well, yeah, would love to hear from you both on, how you structure your iguana hunts. We've covered that you run them from Fort Lauderdale to West Palm and everywhere in between and outside of that. But yeah, can you just give people a sense of what to expect when they're iguana hunting with you guys?
So when you come with us, obviously the first thing we do is we go over the guns to make sure everybody's comfortable with the gun and how it works and whatever. And then I pretty much tell you, they're not the easiest thing to spot. You
Well,
got
hey,
to use your
time
you
out
got
real
to
quick.
use your good eye.
Yeah, time out real quick on that. Because these hunts are unique in terms of the arms that you're using. So can you go into some detail on what you guys are shooting with?
What do you say?
So we're use air rifles. We have
Right.
22, 25. We have
Like guns.
we have compact ones. We have long rifle ones. That way we can accommodate the kids, adults. Some nice scopes. You can zoom in if they're a little farther, a little closer, depending on where we're at.
Awesome.
And then
Yeah.
we got a nice boat. It's 24 foot, where most people that are running in canals are using little John boats. So you can put 2 to 3 people in there, and if you stand up, you're probably going to get wet. It's nice that we were able to get a nice 24-foot flat bottom, so you're not rocking, and super comfortable. I mean, we take 8 to 10 people out at a time sometimes, and everybody's having fun shooting. Plenty of room. It isn't like you're squished, and it's a good time.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Charlie, you were talking about spotting the iguanas.
Yeah, so usually I, try to make a little joke of it, but you got to use your good eye when you're spotting them. And it'll usually take, honestly, about 30 minutes of me spotting them and picking them out before the clients are like, "Oh, there's one. Oh, there's one." Because some people think like, "Oh, that iguana is just going to be sitting there out with a sign. Here I am, shoot me." Like, no, he's green. He's in the grass. He's in the green trees. I mean, it's obviously nice this time of year when they're the big orange ones. That kind of makes it a little easier to spot them, but in their terrain, and like you say, I like to go where their habitat is overrun with the shrubs and the trees, because it just makes that much more to have a good hunt. I mean, there's some places we go and you're lucky to get 10 or 15 on a hunt, where if we go to where the trees and the shrubs and all that's, you're getting 30 or 40 on a hunt.
Yeah.
So it just all depends on, like I say, back to the weather and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. You touched on something interesting there, which was the different colors of the iguanas. Sometimes they're green, sometimes they're orange. Can you explain a little bit about that? Is that like a life cycle thing? Is that a time of the year thing? Is that what?
That's
what
definitely a time of the year thing. From what we've noticed is from like December to about March is when the males will turn like the bright oranges and the yellows and just be all different colored out. And we say it has to be because it's mating season coming up towards the end of March going in. So we say the males are getting pretty, getting ready for their female.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
then they go in and they start mating. And then, like I said, the female will have 60 to 70 eggs per female. So it's going to definitely be hard to get a grip on the eradication of them. Guys, I've had clients come like, oh, I've been following you for 4 or 5 years and it just seems like you're always on them. I'm like, yeah, well, it's kind of hard to, we got different spots we go to. So if we're able to rotate spots, and the iguanas are having so many babies that it's going to always be iguanas to go shoot.
Yeah.
But other than that, you
go
have
ahead.
the lime green, the dark green. They get a little camouflage with the green stripes. They get into the browns before they're turning orange, but that coloration is the life cycle. Besides the orange is usually the male turning colors.
Gotcha. And generally the younger ones are more of like a brighter lime green. Is that right?
Yes.
You can tell
Exactly.
you can tell a mature iguana from like sort of the darker brown and orange hues. Is that right?
Yeah. Besides their size too, because
Right.
But yeah, the little ones are the very pretty yellowish green, vibrant colors, and then they get real dark and ugly until they get pretty orange again. The males, anyways.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, how does time of year factor into the hunt? Because these are an invasive species, so you can hunt them year round. But is there a better time for people to come down than another?
It's not necessarily, I haven't really seen much of the difference on the time of year, except like this time of year is when you get the colorful ones. Because like when we get into the summertime hunts, I just, usually the client will say he wanted to start at 10 or 11, and I'll reach out to the client once you guys send me the booking for it, and I'll explain to him like, hey, by 10 or 11, it's already 90 degrees down here. We get started at 8 o'clock in the morning and 7:30 when that sun's first coming up. That animal's going to be out getting his food for the morning, getting everything, and we'll have a way more successful hunt.
Yeah.
So if the more of the timing of the year just depends on which way the weather's going. If we want to do like an early morning hunt, like this time of year, we would probably get started around like 10 or 11, versus in the summertime we get started around like 7:38.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's all in the factor of the sun. Like you want sun, but in a dead summer, obviously you don't want too much sun, because who wants to be out when it's 110 degrees?
Right.
So we always try to factor in everything and let the clients know, like, hey, I know you said you might have to start at 10, but our better success would be at 8.
Mm-hmm.
Or we've had it where they book this time of year and they're like, oh, we want to get started at 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, no, it's definitely better to get started maybe about 10 or 10:30.
And it's not that you won't see any, because you're still going to see some regardless. Just when you have those better time slots, you're going to have way more out and available to you than the regular time that you might not have as many,
Yep. Totally makes sense. And then, what are your thoughts on eating iguanas?
So I'm laughing because my mom eats them. And my mom and I have a joke going on right now because she really wants me to try them. She sent me numerous photos every time she's made tetrazzini. She's made like a tuna salad out of iguana, fried iguana. And I'm like, looks great, but I'm not doing it. And she keeps trying and trying. And I'm like, Mom, look, when you try sushi, I'll try iguana because my mom doesn't like sushi. So I'm safe right now.
Me, I ain't eating it. There ain't no way. When her mom talks about, oh, it's like chicken, I said, that's why I go to the store and go buy chicken. When I want to eat chicken, I go eat chicken. But now I've had
A lot of
a
clients.
lot of clients, and I get a lot of repeat clients that come down 5 or 6 times a year just to load up a cooler of iguanas to take back home and barbecue them and grill them, and they love them. And so,
But I'll give him a break. He's allergic to fish. Like he cannot eat
Okay.
fish.
That's fair.
So he's like, they're too close to the water and that gamey taste or not. He's not trying it.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I sent my uncle, out with you guys a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I mean,
Right.
he took him back and was making, belts and wallets and,
Yep.
cooked them up and everything. And, you got to love that sort of stuff. And, my co-founder Addison, when we were out a couple years ago, yeah, he ate them and he said it tastes like, a cross
Chicken of the trees.
yeah, he said it tastes like a cross between like a drumstick, a chicken drumstick, and a pork chop. So I left it to him. I didn't really have any interest in tasting it, but to each their own, right?
Exactly. I had a client from South America come who actually educated me on the eggs.
Oh, really?
And he was like, oh man, he was like so happy, so happy. We got back and he started showing me how you just like put a little slit in the belly and out comes a string of literally 30 to 40 eggs on each side of the belly. And I've had a lot of clients that I tell that to, and they pop the eggs out and they go home and hard boil them and crack them open and scramble them. And they'll send me pictures. Oh, it's just like a chicken egg, just a little richer. And I'm like,
Oh,
no,
man.
I'm good, but I'll take your word for it.
Exactly. I'm in that boat. I'll take their word for it. Interesting stuff. Well, cool. And then, yeah, I also want to learn more about, the hog hunts. Can you share on those?
So the hog hunts, we obviously some places you could go and get them. You're gonna pull up and you're gonna sit you in a blind, and it's right next to a feeder. Feeder goes off, the hogs come in, and you shoot it. To me, that's not hunting. You know, when like your client, we just had clients come in and they were kind of skeptical on how it was gonna run, and as soon as they got out and we run and gun. We're not hanging out, taking you to a feeder. We get on the side by sides, we get on the buggies, and sometimes we're running 30, 40 miles an hour through the swamp, chasing them things down, getting them out of the brush. And it's just running, shooting. They definitely are more of an animal that likes to hide. So you got to kind of use your good eye again. And when you're riding around, because they're literally lay down right next to you as you're riding by them in that buggy or the side by side, crunching the palmettos or the sugar cane or whatever brushes are around. And it's a fun time, but some people aren't too keyed in on the running and gunning, and a lot of people love it. So
Yeah,
It's an adrenaline rush.
yeah, it's more of an adrenaline rush for sure.
that's
Definitely.
awesome. Yeah, that's definitely unique in terms of hog hunts because yeah, I mean, especially here in Texas, it's a lot of the feeder thing and that sort of
Right.
stuff.
Yep. So we run and gun. That's kind of our way we try to stick to it, but
Yeah.
you always can't make everybody happy on everything. So sometimes people show up, they're like, "Oh, we thought we were going to sit in a blind." I'm like, "No, not here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly
Put your
why.
seatbelt on. It's time to go for a ride."
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly why we started Captain, is just to match people's expectations to reality, So,
Right.
that's, if it's a run and gun type of hunt, some people like it, others don't, but,
Right.
people figure it out, whether they like it or not right there. So that's awesome. I'm curious about like the hog populations because they're obviously invasive as well. And, a lot of people here in Texas, when we talk about Florida, it's like, oh, iguanas are like the hogs of Florida, right? But you guys have both, so how do you kind of think about, the impact of, those two, invasive species where you guys are at? Like what's about them? What's different?
Hogs have always been around. We have a lot of farmland. A lot of people may or may not know that, but hogs have always impacted the farmers, and we had a lot of woods here in Florida that we have a lot of population that we talked about earlier. And now when you build more population in cities and towns, then hogs still have to go somewhere. So that's where we get a lot of them in a lot of areas that you've never seen them before.
Right.
Iguanas, they just populate way faster, I think, than hogs. They're way harder to find sometimes, So we went in an area that we haven't been in a while, and we're like, hey, look at that big iguana. There's iguanas out here now. Like, They're just moving everywhere.
And like she said, with the development of the pigs, you start to notice it more because, you know, there's big developments going in and they put $1 million worth of shrubs and trees and new grass down to try to make it look good. And within 2 nights, the hogs move in and they tear up every bit of sod they had, root the whole thing up, where now they got to go through and re-level the ground out before they can even get the sod back in. And of course, like the farmers, we got a lot of corn down here that's like edible corn for humans. And they'll go in there and destroy the corn. The cane fields, the same thing. They get into the cane field and just destroy the cane. And then on the cane fields, they'll grow like cane, one crop, and then they'll go back to strawberries, and then maybe back to cane, and then the soybeans all in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And you start putting fruit out there and beans for those hogs. That's just kind of like free game for them. They going through and just destroy those farmlands for sure.
Man, that's tough. Yeah, I'm sure the farmers appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, you know, the gator hunts. That's something that I've never experienced, and I'm dying to try at some point. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody else watching this is interested too. You know, it's kind of the quintessential Florida experience. So
so our gator hunts are kind of like no other. I'm just going to be honest, because a lot of people, I get clients that come down and I hand them a fishing pole and they're like, what am I doing with this? I thought we were going to drive a boat to a line and the gators like swamp people. I'm like, swamp people's TV, baby. This is real life out here. So what we do is we'll stalk the alligator down, obviously drive around and find one. And once he's up, you try to take a fishing pole and you cast a line over top of him. If he goes down, then obviously you let it go, the sinker down to the bottom, and you reel it kind of slow until you get tight on it, and then you set the hook. But if he stays up, you just hurry up, get that line tight, and set that hook in, and then the fight's on.
People that like water gator.
Oh man, he's only on top for it. Once he gets that hook in him, he's down on the bottom. He's running. The fight is on like you've never had before.
Wow.
Like I've had people that come that do tournament marlin fishing, do all types of major tournament fishing. And they're like, dude, that alligator pulled harder than anything I've ever felt before. Yeah. And I mean, I've been, me and her, we've been on a gator before for 3.5 hours.
Wow.
And it did not stop. It ran us probably a quarter of a mile up and down the canal, back and forth in a pipe. We had to get him back out of the pipe.
That's crazy.
It's an adrenaline rush for sure.
It's an adventure that you don't know where it's going to end, how long it's going to be. You just hope that you win in the end, or you keep going till you do.
Yeah, that's epic. What sort of tackle are you using for those?
So for most of them, I'm using like a ocean casting reel.
Yeah.
Open face with like an 80-pound blank of a fishing pole. And then we use 80 to 100-pound test line mono.
Yeah.
And then for most of the clients that aren't familiar with those type of rods, I have spinning rods set up with Power Pro on them. And you're only using a little hook. I mean, it might be,
really?
Oh yeah, a little 4-0 hook is all you need.
Treble hook.
Because a lot of people will show up and say the same thing. Oh, how are you gonna catch that big old alligator with that little hook? And I'm like, well, if you think how tough that alligator skin is, if you have one of those big monster hooks like they show on Swamp People, you're never gonna penetrate the skin on that alligator.
Yeah.
And if that barb's not penetrated in, all that gator has to do is make one death roll, and that hook pops right out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had it happen before. We're fighting a gator for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You get him up to the bank, think he's hooked real good. He makes 1 or 2 rolls, and both hooks pop out, and he swims away. And then you got to find him and get on to the fight again, and you're just like, oh no.
Yeah.
So that little hook
like that is enough.
And you just got to make sure they're super strong. Like I get the 7/0, or I mean the 4/0, but 7 times the strength of a normal hook.
Wow.
So it's kind of hard to bend those ones out, and that's just the way we roll with it and have a lot of success. I mean, we've had one trip where we caught 22 gators in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
not the same hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure not. That would be a ringing endorsement. And where are these gator hunts taking place? Is it, similar swamps to the hog hunts?
Similar to the hog hunts, exactly. On farmland, I've got access to a lot of private lands, so that's how come we're able to offer hunts year round. I don't have like the lottery system how Florida has, where you got to put in and hope you get drawn for a tag. I've got certain spots that are private that have tags available, and they just need the gators out of there. So we go in there and hunt the gators down, and I've got like access to a bunch of the cane fields and farmlands. So we're always able to provide a tag to make sure everything's legal and legit. And it's an awesome experience for people that come down on vacation and they're like, oh man, I can do a gator hunt? Like, yeah, we can do it and make it happen. Like, oh, cool. Like, I thought that was only like a lottery system. So that's the benefit to being a part of this outfit, is having the access to the private lands to get the private tags, and then we can run year round.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's
And it's not like we, sometimes you'll go out there and you'll get on a gator and he'll be 10, 11, 12, 13 foot. And obviously the gator pricing goes by the size of them. So I get clients that come down that, just can't afford that big alligator. So I don't force anybody to kill something that's not in their price range. Like, if you want to pull them up, take a picture with him, we'll tape his mouth up, take a picture with him, and then let him go. And then we'll go back for another gator that's in the size range that you're after.
That's really cool.
So it's not like we force anybody, you know what I mean? It's always about trying to make sure the clients have a great time. And if, the worst thing that I've had that experience where you go out and try to kill something and it's ended up being a bigger deer than what I was expecting. And the guy was like, hey man, you owe me 15 grand for that, not 5,500. And I'm like, oh, well,
yeah,
we should have talked about that before we went out.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Who's taping up the mouth?
I do.
How's that go? Yeah, let me see
And
those
after
fingers.
I do it a few times, oh, I'm good. They're all there. And after I do it a few times, the clients are usually like, oh man, that looks super cool. Can I try it? And I'm like, well, just make sure you sign your waiver.
Oh man, that's insane.
But the trick on that is usually I tap them on their nose, and then that gator will open his mouth up real big. And then once I know where his mouth is, then I can go in and grab it and shut it.
Yeah.
Just a little how I do it. I mean, a lot of people like jumping on the back of it and trying to pin them down, but that's really not the right way to do it, because if that gator starts to do the death roll and you're in the middle of it, yeah, you're going to roll with him, and all he's going to turn around and bite you.
Ugh, no bueno. Well, cool. I mean, just, zooming out a bit, as a married couple, as a family, it's definitely a unique, I don't know, piece of it, right? So like, what does that mean to you guys, in your outfit, being outdoors, making a living together? What does that mean to you guys?
Well, I mean, it means a lot. So we have kids that love being in the outdoors, gator hunting, fishing, hog hunting. So, like when we have clients with kids, it's a great experience for them because we have kids that love to do it too. So, and we have a lot of couples that come with us, and it's great seeing other couples and ourselves doing what we love. We've made a business of it. But it's nothing better than doing something with your best friend, right?
It's amazing.
And especially if you can make money doing it.
Amen to that. Charlie, any thoughts?
No, I think she kind of hit it right there. Just being able to go out with your best friend, or like say she said, you have clients that come down, and sometimes they're like, oh, I got a 8-year-old kid, and I'm like, that's right, we got one of those too. Like, don't worry about it. He's gonna miss. He's gonna get upset, but usually we'll comfort him in, and I usually kind of take to the kids and try to show them. It's always better to have the kids shoot more than the dad. The dad gets super mad.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You gotta outfish dad for Father's Day, right?
That's right. That's right.
Super cool. Well, why do you guys do it, day in and day out? What gets you up in the morning?
Who wants to go sit at a 9 to 5 behind a desk when you can make your own schedule and do what you love, right? There's nothing better than that. Some people like working a 9 to 5 desk job. I'll give it to them, but we don't, and
being out in the woods, being out in the swamp, being out on the ocean, every day is different. You're not doing the same thing usually. I mean, there is times where we have clients that want to come do iguana hunt one day, and then they have so much fun. They're like, hey, can we go do it again and go do it again? Like, sure, no problem. Like, we can do it. So just being out in the open, being out in the air, freedom. It's the last bit of freedom we have left is when we're out in the swamp and out on the ocean.
Yeah. Absolutely nailed it. Hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's exactly why we're doing it. Our mission at Captain is to unlock the outdoors and get people out there. And so, yeah, it's the name of the game. Well, cool. I mean, this has been fantastic. I really enjoyed it and appreciate you guys setting aside time on your Saturday.
Yeah, likewise.
Anything else that you want to, share or get off your chest and get out there to the world?
No, I think we kind of hit everything. It's just time to come down and do some gator, hogs, and iguana hunts.
There you go.
That's what's next.
The
Is
triple
we
combo.
got to get more people down here.